me some really juicy bits out of it, I look at the camera straight. I'm like, this is what you have to do.
Camera rolling, yes. And
so my paternal uncle is the one and only architect Hafeez Contractor. End of the day, he is a Padma Bhushan awardee.
Yeah.
He's a Padma Shri awardee. Elevated walkways, and by far the ugliest of the lot. And if I had my way, I would take it down yesterday. Any good space is about three things: height, light, and air.
What are the things that we don't know are there yet but are going to come really soon that we're going to adapt?
There was a time period when everything was being copied from the West. Most architects or most designers are preferring to lean on traditional values. There was a time when I hated AI until you realize, okay, boss, you better make a friend.
Yeah.
You better make this guy your friend, otherwise he'll replace you. I would not say that on a real estate podcast. No way. So the only philosophy that we follow is that there should be no philosophy.
That is a great philosophy. Thank you for joining us, Karl. We're very excited for this episode. It's our first episode that's going to be on the topic architecture, and we're very excited. I hope you are too. So let's start. And when we're starting, first question I would want to know is tell us about your journey so far with architecture. When did you decide that you wanted to be an architect? How has it been so far? How many years have you put into it? Everything.
My relation with architecture, I suppose, started very, very long back I think in the 6th or 7th grade of school, when so my paternal uncle is the one and only architect Hafeez Contractor.
Yes.
And having him as a sort of figure in the family, I suppose at some level used to play in my mind when I was a kid or whatever. Because I also have another kaka who's an architect in America.
Oh.
So there were a few architects, and the rest of my family was full of doctors. And I think I knew very early in life that I was not
want to be a doctor.
I was not fit to study, or even till today, I've never read a book cover to cover. I just can't. However hard I try, I've not been able to go through one. So I suppose I must have told my dad, I want to do architecture or whatever. So I can't remember precisely. It was either in the 6th grade or the 8th grade. He sent me for a summer internship to Mr. Contractor's office. And at the time, it was a really small office, just like the area of a living room. And I was a small kid. But the only thing I remember is we used to do these wonderful glass tracings. And there was superb, this milky coffee with those Good Day biscuits.
Yeah.
And that was like a limitless supply, which I didn't get at home. So the whole time in office, I was just having those biscuits with that milky coffee. And in the process, I think I started to learn to use my hands. And that relationship of the mind with the hands and doing something artistic is when immediately I started liking art.
Okay.
So in school, I was pretty decent at it. I was okay. I was not exemplary, but I liked doing it. And subconsciously, I figured out I wanted to be an architect, and the rest is history.
Yeah, beautiful history, designer history. So, can you, for the audience also, everybody knows what architecture is, what design is, but can you tell your own definition of a good design? What it actually means, what it signifies, how it's supposed to be, your own definition of design?
So I primarily practice in the public space of architecture, and it is ultimately the service you do in designing a space or the built environment for the people who are going to use it or inhabit it. So very often, architects have very big egos, and very often we get lost in our egos to design something that only looks good. But from the inside, or when you go close to it, it's not necessarily good to use. So at least in my definition, architecture is a collaborative profession. It's not a single person's vision. And the beauty of it is they teach you in college, and it truly is. It's the mother of all arts,
Yes.
because you kind of put everything together, and you then create it. So the joy has to be in doing it all together. The moment you say that you want to do it by yourself, at least I cannot enjoy it personally.
Yeah.
The joy is in having everyone's input and sort of doing it collaboratively.
Now that we know your definition of architecture, can you give us some examples of good designs, in India, some designs that are aspirational, some of them that you really admire, some landmarks or anything?
So obviously the traditional landmarks in India are there. I love personally the romance of the Rajasthani forts, and the fact that they're built from the same material that is there in the mountain, and how they sort of merge. And similarly, I absolutely love the monasteries that you see in Ladakh and Leh. Just the way that they have this relationship with the land is so inspiring, and then that's the reason they make such fantastic photographs. In contemporary India, I suppose I love some of the work done by Charles Correa. I love some of the work done by my own boss, Mr. Hafeez Contractor, and so many other architects. You know, IIM Bangalore, done by B.V. Doshi. Basically, buildings that allow for a very comfortable inhabitation.
Yeah.
I love those kind of buildings. They don't necessarily need to look good. They need to feel good.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the essence of architecture. There are many bad examples.
I was coming at that. Can
But,
you tell us some bad examples?
There's no point. I've seen recently I was going from Ahmedabad airport to some place. I'm trying to remember, was it Ahmedabad or where? And there was this building that looked like a dolphin.
Oh God.
And then after some time, I saw a building that looked like a bird. And I hate that kind of stuff. It's just senseless.
Yeah.
So, but there's no
But that's
point.
not design, right? It's just, I don't think it is design.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Design by definition is
Yeah.
something you create,
Yeah.
not something you copy. So,
Exactly. So you have worked for over 20 years with your boss, like you mentioned, Hafeez Contractor, sir. So what is like working with him? He's one of India's most renowned architect. So how does it feel to work with him? What opportunities do you pick out while you're working with him? How much did you learn from him? All of that.
so he's a unique human being. I mean, just yesterday was Teachers' Day, and I posted something on Instagram in honor of him. He's a human being where, let's put it this way, anything goes.
Okay.
So people on the outside wonder that he's too big a figure. I mean, end of the day, he is a Padma Bhushan awardee.
Yeah.
He's a Padma Shri awardee, and he's achieved so many things in life. But in person, he's the most relaxed and easygoing guy that you will ever meet. He's serious about his work. Every time we have to cut a tree in a project, it really bothers him. He'll wake up in the morning and call, can we not change the plan so that tree can be saved? And it's the small nuances that make the human being and that he is.
So I guess you're from Bombay, born and brought up. So how has your identity as a Mumbaiker shaped your projects so far? Like when compared to other people who don't belong to Bombay, of course, there's a difference in the thinking, the designing, and everything. So how has Bombay per se shaped your way to see design or to create it?
So I'm a hardcore, born and raised, Sobo
Oh,
Mumbai kid.
historic
So-
buildings, vintage vibes, and all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I grew up in Colaba,
Oh,
and Colaba, even then and even now, is still probably the most multicultural place in Mumbai, just a bit like Bandra, where we are today. There is no even half an acre of land where you can say only Hindus live here, or only
Yeah.
Muslims live here, only Christians live here. Every building in Colaba is mixed.
Mixed, yes.
And while growing up, Colaba had the maximum number of tourists. So you had a lot of foreigners, a lot of Arabs that came. They wanted to spend time in Taj and this and that. Colaba was also famous for not such good things. But I think growing up in Colaba and understanding the sort of value of street life. So there's a saying, most guys who meet who've grown up in, Colaba and meet maybe after 20 years,
Yeah.
there's like a code, like you're a Colaba boy.
Yeah.
Like, you've, fought your whole life to park, you fought your whole life
Super.
listening to drunkards in the night and, the smell of fish as the fish
Yes.
truck passes. But growing up in Colaba, in a sense, I feel made everything what is absurd to most people normal to me. So the essence of Mumbai life, which is effectively on the street, that's where the life of Mumbai happens. So while I design so many high-rise buildings, it's strange that I still like to live on third or fourth floor, looking into a tree
Yeah.
where I can understand the scale of a leaf, or looking at the sea where I can understand the waves, as opposed to living on the 50th floor and being disconnected from the world. So I think then being exposed to the heritage precincts of the city, because every day in life we used to pass Marine Drive, we used to pass VT station, and that sort of grows on you
Yeah.
without you realizing it. And once it grows on you, you start to value it.
Yes.
And you carry that value into your work and into your profession. So, I've been a big lover of Mumbai's heritage and all the madness and the nuances that come with it. And, we try our best to take it into our work.
That's good. This one's for the audience as well, that like you have worked worked on so many famous buildings, let's say Manipal in Jaipur. Then there's Bits also, which a lot of people admire. They love how it's made. So for our viewers who don't know, let's say the Manipal University building is world's most third largest, let's say net zero energy building. That's what's it called.
Right.
And the IIM Calcutta Campus is also coming up with the same concept. So these buildings, apart from having the zero energy concept, what differentiates them? What's the process when you're making such a huge property? What are the thoughts, and how do you merge design with a big public space, and how important it is for it to, so that people can understand, that there is a design element as well. It's not just a college, not just a university. There are design elements that if you sit and see, you'll understand where it comes from. So, what is the process of doing such big spaces? How do you all plan it? How do you all come up with these ideas of designs and everything?
So the first thing is to put yourself in that place.
Yeah.
That's the first. So, when you're designing a campus or something, you go and see the site and you try and appreciate the good things about the site and the bad things about the site. And in the case of these projects that you talk about, each project has been a unique solution to that particular site. So, for example, in Bits Pilani, there still is this very beautiful old clock tower, and across it is a very nice Saraswati temple, and the only site was in the middle. So whatever we did would disrupt the view between the two buildings which existed for 80 years.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to dig the ground and put the building below the ground. And then we carpeted the top with landscape, so that we actually returned the site to its original, how it used to be. But in the underbelly of the landscape was a bustling 3,000 student campus.
Yeah.
So
Very good one.
So thank you. and doing that at scale is where the fun comes.
Yeah.
In the case of Manipal, we had to make, we were doing a campus in Demikala, which is extremely hot throughout the year. And what we did is we created this student village of almost 15,000 students,
50,000.
where all the buildings are so closely interconnected. And guess where we got an idea from? We got an idea from the old villages of Jaisalmer and the old villages of Jaipur, where all the buildings were so close to each other that each building would shade the other building.
Okay.
So when you're on the street is always shaded, except for when it's noon. So the whole place became comfortable. And then we used technology, we used a lot of technology to study the wind patterns. And we were able to carve out these openings in strategic places so that through the whole year, we were, able to establish comfort at street level. So I think every campus has a unique solution, and that's the fun. In the case of IIM Calcutta, it was all the presence of water. There was so much water that we had to build around it.
Yeah.
So that's that's the fun.
So talking about the Dharavi redevelopment, so I just wanted to know, how does an architect approach such a big space, because it's huge, it's been there for a while, and taking away from it from scratch, how is your approach to a space that huge, and also how is it different from, let's say, regular residential buildings that you all build, developments that you all do? How is it different in that manner, and how do you all approach for such a place that needs to be developed, which has been there since ages and it's kept on going around, talks are going around and everything, but how do you all approach to it?
So I think there's been a lot of talk on Dharavi, and it's important that I keep it short.
Yeah.
Dharavi is something that we have been working on in official or unofficial capacity for nearly 15 years, 20 years with various governments. And the only reason we've done that is not to back the project at the end. It's really because the office, and especially led by Mr. Contractor, it's been very close to his heart to redevelop Dharavi in a meaningful way. So what initially started with just designing something from a 30,000 feet level now has become something where we're actually trying to meaningfully redefine community living. So at the start we were putting lots and lots of buildings, just multipliers of each other, to house people and free up land. But now there is a sustained effort to create sort of community living spaces, a perfect percentage of housing with retail, shops, etc. So that individual communities of 5,000 people, 2,000 people, 10,000 people can coexist. Because it's a very multicultural place. So creating something like that, and to get their buy-in, it's a very tight rope that everyone is walking. And that's the reason why it's taken so long to take off. So I think Dharavi will continue to have its own story. Phase 1, I think, will be different from phase 2. Phase 3 will be different, because each phase will teach us something new.
Yeah. So if, let's say, you had the opportunity to redesign a landmark in Bombay, you said you're a Bombay boy, typical. Any landmark that you had the opportunity to redesign or put your ideas into it, or change it a little bit or make something else on its place, which landmark would it be? Or just spice it up a bit?
I do, first and foremost, if there's anything to be redesigned, I would call it a landmark, because I think there was a point in this city where we built lots and lots of these walkways, elevated walkways, and by far the ugliest of the lot is the one they've done at near Grant Road Station, the round one. And if I had my way, I would take it down yesterday and do it in a more meaningful and a way that people can use it. It's just so pathetically done that the city deserves better. Let's put it that way.
So there's this quote which I'll talk about, and then I want your opinion on it. So there's this quote by famous architect Louis Kahn, who says, "Architecture is the thoughtful making of space. But we have people who commonly perceive architecture to be associated with just drawing and, making designs and not a lot more than that. You're just like, you give us a plan and the interior designer will take care of it and all those sorts. So, and some people even say architecture is unnecessary in the construction industry. Now, many people have misconceptions about this industry. Can you shed some light on how important architecture is, let's say, in a residential apartment when it's being built, and how, because we're coming to a generation, we're moving forward where people want everything customized. Now, like if I tell them this is the house, you buy it, and then I give them an option, you can customize it as per your taste. They're going to go for the later one, right? So, how important architecture is in the residential space?
So let me draw an analogy with cars. Maybe that would help. There was a time when you had uh, pokey cars
Yeah.
with small windows, and now you have a time when you have a car which has a big window and a sunroof
Yeah.
is considered a nicer place to be. So, like Louis Kahn said, the art of creating space and that ability to think three-dimensionally uh, that architects train for is so important, because any good space is about three things: height, light, and air. All of us in our homes, most people, their favorite spot would be by the window.
Yeah.
Why?
The balcony, by the window.
Because you get access to light, you get access to air, and you get access to a view.
Yeah.
You have that favorite tree, or you have that favorite place on which every morning at 7:30 two parrots come, and you make it a point to take your coffee and sit there just for that 2 seconds to see those two parrots and go. It is capturing those moments which uh, human beings should have that ability to capture those moments. And architecture is all about that. I mean, Louis Kahn is, I forgot to mention him, he's one of my favorite architects. Has made some unbelievably memorable buildings. And the commonality in all those buildings was this creation of space.
Yeah.
Space that wows you, space that, that narrows in width, that grows in width, that space that continues to surprise you. And then the whole joy is just in being there. And that's what, good architecture is all about.
Enjoying it. What's
Yeah,
made you enjoy
absolutely,
it?
yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? Like we could
Yeah.
live in spaces which are empty and still,
Yeah,
but the reason
absolutely.
we design it so that we can come back home, look at it, and like, okay, I had a bad day, but at least my house looks good.
Exactly. I mean, there are times when I've seen buildings that we've designed, and some interior designer has put wardrobes on the on the window, and I just see that person's house, and I'm like, why? The most precious commodity in this room is the window.
Yeah.
But for some people, storage is more important than air.
That
So
is there. So there's always been a misconception revolving around interior designers and architects. Some people also think what they do is similar, like what they have similar responsibilities, they have similar designs and whatever. For our audiences, I just want you to differentiate between the two, like interior designers, what their roles are, architects, what they actually do.
So firstly, technically speaking, architects design the built environment, buildings and all of that around, and interior designers will focus on the interior
Interiors.
space.
Yes.
Having said that, there's often a lot of loose talk that interior designers are this way and that way,
Yeah.
but that comes from architects, including myself, who don't have a very good hang on interior design. And I think it's extremely important to know how to do interior design well, because once you enter a space, it is the touch and feel of various materials and the comfort
Yeah.
that various things give you that makes you want to be in that space. So I think the best marriage is when architecture and interior design are kind of coexisting in a nice way, like that
Teamwork,
wardrobe
yeah.
example I gave you. And that's when really the space comes alive.
Yeah. Interior designers know how to put life to a
Absolutely.
house. That's what we can say. Like
Yes.
you build it and they put life on it.
It's like the reason we all dress up, no? You'll
Like there's
dress
the
up.
body and then you dress up.
Yeah, and then you put some earrings and you put some makeup
Yeah.
and then you embellish it because that's what makes you feel good.
Yeah. It's like they doll the place up.
Yeah.
That's what we can say. So now, what are the changes we see like in westernized architecture? We're adapting everything from the west, slowly, everything. So there are features like, central heating, we have walk-in closets, modular kitchens, appliances and everything. So how has it been with India, let's say Bombay? How adaptive India has been for all of these things, and what are the things that we don't know are there yet but are going to come really soon that we're going to adapt architecture wise from the west?
So India's always had a cost problem, and half the reason we could not, I would not say do things like the West, but build at that certain
Yeah.
budget is because cost has always been an issue in India. And now that budgets are higher, obviously we are starting to import more
Yes.
and more. But I would say on the design side, it's actually the reverse. There was a time period when everything was being copied from the West. But if you see now in architectural design, in interior design, landscape design, there is actually now most architects or most designers are preferring to lean on traditional values. So if you see our homes, we'll have Kashmiri carpets and we'll have something. If you see our choice in clothes, if you see our choice in curtains, it's not always austere and European or American. It's always got some masala mix in it.
Yeah, like Indian Chinese.
Yeah, it's like it's in our DNA to like colors,
Yeah,
to like some
to mix and match.
zari
Yeah.
work, and all of that comes into design. And that's the reason in architecture now you see more and more buildings being done with bricks, with warmer colors.
Yeah.
Glass is being discussed. How much is the right amount of glass to use? So I think the industry is moving slightly towards core Indian Asian values as well,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Which is a very good thing. I think after that they will start copying us slowly.
I hope.
They will. They are very fascinated. I think tourists, when they come to India, especially they go to places like Jaipur, Udaipur and everything, they're very fascinated by how
Absolutely.
everything is built. Leave those things, see our courts, the high courts, the Bombay High Court, everything is built so beautifully. Though it was built by Britishers, but it is still in India. So,
Yeah.
okay. So now there's a trend going upwards for sustainability. Everybody's adapting it. The real estate developers are adapting it. Small scale business people are adapting it. What are you or your company doing for this trend? Like, how do you incorporate sustainability in your projects?
So at the start, we used to only really sincerely look at sustainability for our institutional and office work, because to be blunt, real estate guys didn't care about it.
Yeah.
Even now, it's only because they have no choice that they're coming forward and they're talking about sustainability and all of that. Having said that, there are a few very well-known, and I would say in the top 3 or 4 in the country, real estate developers who are taking sustainability very seriously, from the concrete mixes to the shading of buildings, etc., etc. As a practice, core traditional Indian values, buildings have been sustainable. It's only that when you build at scale, it's very difficult to adapt a value system which is applicable to a ground floor 2000 square feet house to say a 2 million square feet office building. So in that, we then use technology. So, when we started doing work for Infosys many years back, most of our sustainability we learned from them, because they started insisting on reduced depth of floor plate, so every employee would get access to natural light. They started insisting on net zero buildings. We were given targets, like the building you mentioned in Manipal in Jaipur. In a hot place like Jaipur, we've achieved a target of 1 ton of air conditioning per 600 square feet, which is unheard of.
Yeah, 1 ton is lot.
And we've achieved that because the buildings are self-shaded with a series of jalis, perfect calculation of window to wall ratios. Most of the walls are double walled. So the building is naturally insulated. So the inside temperature is generally not crossing 27, 28 degrees. So what ends up happening is we're only cooling 3 degrees. So 1 ton of air conditioning is able to work so much more. Whereas if you don't insulate your building well, the inside temperature is 35. Now you have to cool 11 degrees to come down to 24. So you have to keep pumping air conditioning. So it's the balance between passive and active. Passive, when I say, is that the architect has to passively design the building to make sure that it's by itself a comfortable place to be. And then you have to just bridge the gap with engineering and air conditioning. So that's the perfect balance when it comes to, and the same applies to residential buildings. I mean, we always use deep chhajjas, deep overhangs to try and self-shade the buildings so that the building itself is not heating up. And that helps, be more sustainable.
Yeah, it takes a lot of things go in, like you explained. There's like people from outside we see, okay, there are, for some people it's like sustainability, oh, they're moving to bamboo, they're doing to this, they're applying that. But then when you understand what actually bits and pieces go into it, is actually a way bigger thing.
Yes. See, using more sustainable materials is very easy for a small scale. So if you see a cute little resort in Khandala which is in bamboo, it sounds very nice.
Yeah.
But it's okay to do it at that scale. When suddenly you have to do it at a humongous scale, how many bamboo forests will you cut up to make a building of 2 million square feet? You can't.
Yeah.
In fact, bamboo is not even, if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong, but bamboo is not even a local indigenous plant or tree in India. And wherever bamboo is grown, it doesn't allow other trees to grow.
Yeah.
Like, somebody 50 years ago planted a few bamboo in the Tadoba forest. And now the whole Tadoba forest is full of bamboo. And a lot of the old Indian trees like Palash and Neem, they are getting colonized by the bamboo.
Oh God.
So, what material something may, just because it looks like wood and it looks like a leaf, doesn't mean it's sustainable.
So according to you, what is the best design philosophy to follow? Like a simple best design philosophy that you follow for your designs?
So the only philosophy that we follow is that there should be no philosophy.
That is a great philosophy.
Because, architects, this is my view, and, a lot of architects will not agree. But architects are too tied up in what is my philosophy, and I'll only do it this way and I'll only do it that way. And the moment you take all of those things that are tying you up and you just dump them in the dustbin, you'll find that life becomes a lot more easier. Having said that, every site has to be treated with its own merit. And if we talk about philosophy, it should be that you have to understand very carefully your client's brief. If your client's brief is a little absurd, in a sweet, gentle way, you have to nudge them to bring them onto the right track. That is our job at the end of the day. Sometimes you have to make the plan the way they want it, just to demonstrate that it doesn't work. And depending on the project type, depending on the aspiration of the project, whenever the chance arises, you have to try and make it something special and sustainable. So that's, if you can call a philosophy, I think that's the philosophy.
Okay. So Mumbai, so this is question for the audience as well as me. I'm not aware about this, so I really wanted to know what it is. Mumbai has the largest collection of Art Deco buildings in India. While many people enjoy the popular landmarks, but they aren't aware about the history behind it, why it was made in a certain way, how is it, what does Art Deco mean, and everything. So I want you to like help people understand that what Art Deco, what is the style, what does the style and design mean?
See, why did Art Deco come up? If I'm not mistaken, and I might be wrong, I think Art Deco came up in America. The largest precinct of Art Deco buildings in the world is in Miami. In India, of course, like you said, it's in Mumbai. For many generations before Art Deco, there is what is known as classical architecture. There was a Renaissance period. There was a post-Renaissance. There was all of that. People wanted to make buildings that looked grand, that looked traditional. But when America was growing at a rapid pace, they did not have the time and energy and money to make all of those classical Renaissance details, because those took a lot of time and they took a lot of money. So when the common man or the businessman wanted to make a building that still looked grand, that's how the Art Deco style evolved. And it was a phenomenal style because it allowed you to go vertical.
Yeah.
A lot of your Renaissance buildings, the whole Renaissance style of architecture is more for a ground and 5, ground and 6 kind of look. So the Art Deco was all about going vertical, and as you went to the tops of the buildings, you had flourishes of details, and it was all about repeatability of details. So that's how Art Deco came about. And on coastal cities like Mumbai or like, I mentioned Miami, Art Deco has been also beautifully done in a horizontal way, long lines, deep overhanging chhajjas. And again, if you see the Art Deco balconies, the detail is very simple. It can be done by an ordinary mason. But so you'll see the balconies have railings like this and then like this. But if you zoom in, it's just a tappa. It's not getting into multiple level of detail.
Yeah.
So Art Deco was like the common man's Renaissance. And that's the reason it took off so well. And I love Art Deco buildings. To be very frank, I like Art Deco more than Renaissance
So
buildings.
what are your favorite Art Deco buildings inspired by, let's say, British architecture in Bombay?
So that's again that's a contrarian question.
Okay.
Because Art Deco is not inspired by British architecture.
Okay, so let's say in India, what are your favorite buildings that are inspired by Art Deco?
So I'm biased on that point because our office just completed the renovation, external as well as internal, of the famous Eros cinema.
Okay.
But hand on heart, even when I was a kid, Eros cinema and Regal cinema to me were the best examples of Art Deco architecture. Just the way the building sort of hugged the corner junction, and then right at the right place it becomes taller, and all those lines, and then those lady fairies with those wings all done in plaster. It just makes you feel. And the beauty of the Art Deco style is even the text and the font is Art Deco.
Okay.
So it's the only style that really captivates. And for an architect, it's very easy to learn Art Deco. You just sit with your hands and you do it 4-5 times and you can pick it up. Today we are doing, I would say, India's tallest Art Deco building on Walkeshwar for the developer Lodha. It's called Lodha Malabar. Beautiful building.
Yeah.
And I think it will be India's tallest Art Deco building, full of Art Deco details, just to end the Queen's necklace with the tall Art Deco building.
So like you mentioned Lodha right now, so I'm sure you work with multiple developers, and with multiple developers they have different kind of ideas and different kind of narratives, how they see the buildings to be, right, how they see the architecture, and then they discuss. So with different developers, are there any developers who just give it to you like, I trust you, just make it the way you want to? Or what is like the process of getting both of you at the same page, understanding this is what it'll take? Of course some people have to adjust, you all have to do a little bit or whatever, and on those lines only, like different developers have different tastes, they want everything. Now I think for some developers, let's say Hiranandani, it's it's become a pattern, right? The way he builds buildings, every era that you see, they're going to be the same
Hafeez
material.
Contractor only put him on that pattern.
Yeah. That is great. So, you understand. Once you enter the building, this is Hira Nandani. Once you enter Loda, you smell luxury, this is Loda. So, like, how do you all, let's say, merge with every developer and then create this beauty that comes out of it?
Every developer is different. Each developer has their own quirks, their own sort of, I would say, I don't want to get into trouble, but weird way of doing things.
Yeah.
Some are more, passion driven. Some are more mathematical driven. Some have a balanced view. But that's the fun.
Yeah.
The fun is understanding the nuances of each developer and working with them. For example, some developers will, for projects where the margins are less, it's all about cost, rationalization, this, that, the other. And as you move into the luxury market, that's where your hand starts getting a little free.
Yeah.
But still, in today's day and age, there are very few, I would say 2 out of 10 developers who'll still say, you're my architect, you tell me what you want. And then they'll still, in a very sweet way, tell you, but can we change this? Can we change that?
Yeah.
And there are some guys who just come with a,
This is what I want.
ramming truck and say, this is what I want, this is
Do
what
it.
I want. Yeah. So you have to work for both because, you have to run the studio at the end of the day.
That's true. Who is your favorite real estate developer?
I would not say that on a real estate podcast. No way.
Like, no way. Okay. I can't even ask if you're not answering the favorite, I can't ask the least favorite. So let's just leave that question.
No, but I'll say it in a different way. There are some developers who just trust you. And I would say those are the favorite.
Yeah.
Because they have a site, they've not even gone through the thought process of selecting an architect. Their emotional connect with you is on the day they see the land. So there are some developers who will call you and say, you come with me to see the land. He's not even bought the site yet, he or she. But your client, a client and an architect is like one client only taught me this, is like body and soul. If you guys don't understand each other, it can never work. So developers who trust you are actually the best developers. And we have a joke in the architecture fraternity. We say that if you let me design, my fee is X. If you want to design, if you want to design with me, my fee is 2x. And if you and your whole team wants to design with me, my fee is 10x.
Yeah.
Because if the guy trusts you and you make the design, it's done in 1 or 2 shots.
Yeah.
The moment
The
it becomes
more
a
the
whole,
brains, the more the input.
Yeah. And it's like it's like cooking food.
Yes.
You have to be very careful how many people are putting their hands in that dish, because at some point you'll know कि खिचड़ी बन गया है.
Yeah. So when they trust you, the good ones, they give you the creative liberty or creative space to come up with whatever you want, and then it comes.
Yeah, and you have to understand them.
Yes.
That okay, these developers don't like to spend beyond this, or they like things in a certain way, and that's you accordingly design.
Yeah. So let's talk about technology, because we're surrounded by it everywhere now. Everything's on AI. Everybody's moving towards AI. Real estate is also moving. We're selling houses through, online and everything, digitalizing everything. So now AI has taken by storm a lot of businesses, right? Like, so how in architecture, like some people also use AI tool to draw their designs,
Yes.
and it makes it very easy for them, which used to take days. It's done in like minutes with ChatGPT and all of those things. So how do you think technology will merge with architecture, and will it make it easy and better? Will it eat some people's jobs? And how is it going to be? Because we personally believe, yes, AI is a great tool. It's amazing. But when it comes to art and creativity, it'll still give you what's already been done. It's not going to, like a human mind, create something authentic and, get it on the table, which might change because we are running with technology. So what do you think about it? How is it going to merge with architecture? Is it going to do really well? Is it going to eat people's jobs? What it's going to do?
So there was it's a good question and very relevant. There was a time when I hated AI until you realize, okay, boss, you better make a friend. You better make this guy your friend. Otherwise, he'll replace you. So now, a little bit, AI is a friend. But the thing is that the architecture and interior design profession is definitely at risk is too sharp a word, but definitely going to be challenged
Yes.
by the presence of AI. And that's simply because, say you want to design your apartment, you can simply take a photograph of your empty walls and run it through an AI program, and it can spit out
Yes.
20, 30 options in minutes.
Minutes.
Now, as you zoom in, you'll find all sorts of vagaries in that
Yeah.
option, but that's enough for you to tell somebody,
To get an idea.
make
Yeah.
it this way. Now, where I think AI may or may not be able to replace us is in the technical know-how of how to actually get things done. So it's still a peripheral sort of visual thing. It's not gotten technical. It might. But for the profession, I mean, a lot of my clients, sometimes we send them a facade or an elevation, and their son or daughter will run it through AI and they'll send me something back. So I think every architect has to make a choice,
Yeah.
because to me, the pleasure of designing is why I'm in the profession. The day that goes away, I'll have to find some other profession.
Yeah.
So in our office also, there are a lot of youngsters who come and say, sir, AI mein dekho ye option, ye option, ye option. I said, Baba, you be careful, because then you'll reach a point where you'll just be waiting on the computer what the hell you'll
Yes.
spit out.
Yeah.
And then you'll take that and you'll try and make sense of it. Your mind will completely
Corrupt,
become
yeah.
numb. So, but having said that, AI is there to stay. And in fact, we are debating in the office to take up some AI classes and sort of see how to
Yeah.
use it in a way that doesn't compromise our core profession. And maybe in 10 years, 15 years, if it completely outruns, so be it. I mean, what can you do?
No, it'll always need a human to give them instructions. So
hope.
AI can't do everything on its own. Until the time I don't give it a prompt, it cannot make something, right?
Yeah.
So that whoever made AI is kind of it's a debate, you're so appreciative about the fact that it's saving you time and everything, and the next point, like, it can take my job. So you're just in between that.
Yeah, but like you said, that all good things require some time, then only they have
Yes.
value. So for example, say you put a prompt in and it spits out 20 options, they have no value, because it's come so fast. You can get another 20
Yes.
more. So
That is true.
for clients also, I say that design is also part of the journey. And if you're only interested in the end product, then fine, that's you. And then there's those who prefer the journey. So if you're just in the end product, yeah, you can use AI and maybe cut. You can go from Churchgate straight away into Dadar, and then you finish the journey. But be a little patient. Enjoy the first few stations also.
Yeah. You value it more when it takes time. Anything that takes time, you
Always.
value it more.
Yeah,
Because
everything.
when anything is easily available, you'll do it again. So you won't have the.
Yeah, you just keep spitting it out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's too easy.
Yeah. Also kills the creativity in you.
Absolutely.
So that's why. Okay, so which is your favorite type of project in architecture that gives you the most creative freedom, and which which leaves a little room for creativity?
So definitely working with the real estate industry does not leave much room for creativity, because
They
they
just
are
have to
all
sell.
about numbers and
Yes, they just have
profits
to make money.
and Excel sheets. And Often many of the clients we work with, they actually take our plans and then there's somebody in their office, I don't know who like converts that plan into an Excel sheet. Bedroom ye hai, corridor ye hai. And I feel really, I'm empathetic to those people who have to sit and do that job. At least we get to draw. But when you work on the public side, where often you don't make enough money, when you do institutions, when you do, like right now we're doing, the most exciting project I'm working on is the National Maritime Museum for India. It's a huge assignment. It's coming up in Lothal, Gujarat. And those kind of projects absolutely test your limits. Because we are working with almost, I would say, 4 or 5 ministries in India. We're working with the Shipping and Ports Ministry. We're working with the Culture Ministry, Ministry of Home Affairs, Defense, Navy, Coast Guard, Archaeological Survey of India. Because a national museum has to portray information in a factually correct and interactive manner. And the beauty of doing a building like this is that, two grown-ups of 30-year-old don't go to a maritime museum. You only go if you have a small kid and your kid wants to take you. So how do you create a huge space that will entertain children for 5-6 hours? And so we have to work with exhibit designers, we have to work with AV and lighting specialists, and the amount of trades and disciplines that it takes to execute something of that complexity with the stakeholder participation from various arms of the government, various bureaucracies, making sure that everyone is satisfied. Then public hearings. So we have to present, they have to keep presenting these projects in all sorts of public forums, Tourism Gujarat, Tourism India, National so-and-so and so-and-so. So often they call us to present the design. I think the whole journey that it's, again, coming back to the journey versus destination point, that you're taking almost 10-20,000 people along with you to finish that end product. Of course, there's no amount of fees they can pay us to commensurate the effort. But that is, to me, creativity is less, like you said, your favorite project, which is totally creative. Creativity is a certain percentage. But I have for me personally, I love projects where there is a good amount of hardship. Because that you should be able to have to fight through to get to the end.
Yeah.
And that, feeling at the end is very, very precious.
That is true.
Because that journey, you collect so many experiences and so many little knowledges, and you make so many friends along the way that, for life, it stays with you.
It's like a good story that you like getting back to whenever
Correct.
you want.
And that's why I love
architecture. When you're sipping your
architecture.
coffee and looking at the 2 parrots, that's where you go back at.
Yes.
Yeah. So now with the, cap growing on, spending capacity of people growing, we're moving towards the luxury sector. Let's say even in residential, commercial, everything, people want luxury now. They like it. They want to feel it. Some people do it just because it's trending. Other people actually know what they're talking about, right? So when it comes to real estate and residential especially, according to you, what lies ahead in the future of Mumbai's luxury real estate market? Like, what are the things that are going to come up again in the luxury segment that are going to be here and they're going to stay?
So the definition of luxury is different for everyone. And even a small apartment can be made to feel luxurious if you put enough of materials and you make it feel and look rich. True luxury is always going to be in space. Larger apartments, bigger balconies, access to good views and westerly winds. That's always going to be the real top of the line luxury. And then how you embellish the space is secondary. I would say Mumbai, Delhi, these kind of places, Bangalore, these markets have, Hyderabad, they've matured to understand luxury much better. as you said, luxury is here to stay because spending capacity has gone up
Increasing, yeah.
a lot. And I really hope that it's not just about ticket size. It should be about, there are some developers in Bangalore, like one developer, I've never worked with them, but I love their work, Total Environment. They make all these kind of green homes. Now that is luxury, according to me,
Yeah.
because it's not just about how big your apartment is and how many boxes you ticked. It's the fact that every day you are living in nature. So everyone's definition is very, very different.
Yeah, and I think post-pandemic, everybody has become closer to nature. They want bigger spaces, more balconies, gardens,
Absolutely.
and everything. So they're appreciating it more. That actually has become a luxury. When we talk about, especially in Bombay, we have a space crunch. We don't get to get a garden or a terrace or everything. So I think people value it way more. That's why I
Absolutely.
think the concept of second homes came after,
Yeah.
extremely went up after COVID.
Absolutely.
Everybody
It had
wants
almost
a home.
died.
Yeah.
It didn't
Otherwise-
exist.
Yeah.
And now it's all over the
After
place.
COVID, it's like, I want a farmhouse. I want a vacation home. I want this so that we can, it actually changed the way people thought.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So what are some of the best tips that you learned from working with Mr. Hafeez Contractor that you implement whenever you are starting a new project? Or also those tips can help our audience who are entering into architecture, who want to become architects. So what are those tips?
So I would say the most important tip is to remain honest to your work, not have a chip on your shoulder, and change is the only constant. You have to be ready to constantly evolve and change, and be a little easygoing when it comes to your designing style.
Because now half of them would have to be designing Gen Z's homes, which will
Yeah.
have so many changes.
No, and the future generation, I mean, at least I have completed maybe half or little less than half of my career with not competing with human beings. The next guy is passing out, they don't even know who they're competing with. They're competing with probably their own client,
Yeah.
who in the small mobile phone
that
is
designed.
having, yeah.
Everything is done.
So it's stiff competition out there.
So what are some memorable projects that you worked on that you remember, or maybe there were some instances, some experiences that you really often think about because it was such a nice project?
So I've been very lucky, to be very frank. I worked on India's tallest building, the Minerva Towers in Worli, 301 meters. That building went through so many changes. The DCR of the city changed twice or thrice. The structural codes of India changed twice. And every time we just took the change as if it's part of the trip. And finishing that building was the most enjoyable part of that whole project, more than designing it. I've been lucky to work on the largest net zero building in India, in Manipal. The amount of fights we had with the sustainability team, oh, you can't do this, I can't give you a window here. If you want a window here, you have to give it so much shading. And I felt like every step of the way my hands are being held by somebody else. But then when you finally let go, okay, theek hai yaar, karenge. The end product is so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm working on the Lothal Museum, which is the world's largest net zero museum, in a place that almost is a desert type area.
Oh.
So how we only get flood waters in monsoon. So how to collect that water, use it throughout the year, stuff that nobody taught. But now that we want to do it, we're sitting with the experts and we're understanding how to do water calculations, how to calculate. I mean, who calculates evaporation? We are calculating
Never.
evaporation loss.
AI can help you there.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, so these are all the interesting projects that keep you alive.
That's good. Okay, so having spent such a long time in this industry, I'm sure you must have had times where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I want to give up. Maybe some projects that were so, hard that where you felt like I just cannot do this. So what are the things that you do to, pull yourself back up? No, like I have to and everything, because with our generation, especially, people get scared very easily. They give up very easily. So what things that you use that helped you can help other people when they're going through a similar phase?
So this happens a lot, trust me, where you get demotivated. The best thing that I do is for 2 days I switch off from that project and concentrate on something else. And then after 1 day or 1.5 day, automatically you're like, ठीक है यार, करना है, कर लेंगे.
So
So
it's simple. Like you don't have to overthink it. You just put your concentration on something else for a while,
yeah,
and then
and I enjoy a rough road. So for me, it's okay. I'm quite resilient.
that's good. So for the people who are getting into architecture, who are studying architecture, who want to become architects, what are the let's say advice you'll give them to become successful in this career? What it takes, let's say 3-4 tips to be successful in this industry, because there are a lot of people out there who are pursuing this career.
Yeah.
What will set them apart and what will make them successful?
So it's not an easy profession if you want quick success. As long as you understand that the architectural profession, the curve is a little flat in the beginning, and then success does come. I think going back to the point of remaining resilient, then it's an enjoyable profession. Often in our profession, people want higher salaries, they want promotions very, very quickly. But the truth of the matter is that unless you have the experience and unless you deliver projects and go through multiple motions of design, you're not at the level you personally might think you are. So that's be patient is the most important piece of advice. Second is understand your strengths early in life. There are some people who are very good in design. There are some people who are technically gifted. There are some people who are more on the marketing and visual side. And every aspect of the profession is equally important. So start focusing on your strength rather than wasting too much time on improving your weakness, because life is short and you may as well do that. And I suppose the other thing which is relevant today is to remain ethical. Sadly, the profession is going through a turmoil when it comes to ethics. Personally, I have said it many times, where architects must continue to work for themselves and their clients, and not for the industry of materials and products and all of that, which is sadly happening in our industry a lot right now. So these are the 3-4 things I think for people aspiring to be architects.
Okay. So now we have a very small and fun rapid fire round where I'll ask you questions and you tell me whatever comes to your mind. And we'll end our beautiful podcast with that. I know so much about architecture. I feel like in interior design, now I'll just take up a certification and then go and design people's houses.
Yeah, come and work in our office.
Oh, thank you. My boss should hear this. I have a job offer. Okay. So rapid fire round. You mentioned earlier that you don't read books. My first question was, which was your favorite book of all time?
Oh my, none.
None. Okay. Favorite skyscraper in Mumbai?
Favorite skyscraper in Mumbai, I would say I like the Lodha World Towers the most.
Okay. Is there a famous architectural monument in Mumbai that you'd love to redesign? We've had that question, but again, whatever comes first to your mind.
Definitely the pedestrian walkway at Grant Road Bridge.
Okay.
Grant Road Station.
One building with an almost bizarre design that makes it perfect. Like it's it is bizarre, but it looks perfect.
I love the museum in Abu Dhabi. I'm forgetting the name. the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. It's so bizarre, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah. A monument or building project that you would have loved to be a part of when it was being built.
I would have loved to design the Parliament House in Delhi. I would have done it differently.
So, the top 3 buildings or monuments that people pursuing architecture must study and go and have a look at and learn from it.
So more than buildings, I think people should walk cities. Some great European cities, Indian cities. Walk at street level and understand the fabric of the city and the nuances of human behavior. That is more enriching than just buildings to me.
Commercial or residential? What's your favorite projects that you would like to work on?
Commercial.
Commercials. Yeah, open public spaces like you mentioned. Okay, so that was it. You're not answering the worst monument and everything. So let's keep it at that. So Karl, thank you so much for joining us. This was a very good episode. I feel like I'm already into architecture a lot. And of course, I'm going to go and Google all the things, all the monuments, all the buildings that you've mentioned. And I hope our audience got to learn a lot from this. So thank you again for being a part of this. It was an honor to host you.
Thank you, Juhi. Thank you to the whole Jugyah and Trej team. And it was so nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sticking along for the whole episode. I hope you get to learn a lot from this episode and also share it with as many people as you can so that we can improve our content for you. You are everything to us. So please hit the bell icon, subscribe to our channel, follow our channel, like our channel, share it everywhere. And we'll see you next time.